Good evening, and welcome to the June 17th, 2024 meeting of the Oakdale Environmental Management Commission. Very glad to see each of you. And for those watching online, thank you for being in this space with us. We will begin this evening with our roll call of commissioner members present, and commission staff liaison Hannah Dunn will now be taking roll.
Chair Girding.
Present.
Vice Chair Miller.
Present.
Commissioner Doolittle.
Present.
Commissioner Wilson.
Present.
Commissioner Yang.
Great. Thank you. Tonight we also recognize a council member in attendance and a guest, and then she is not here yet, so I will move to that one. Next item is to move to our Pledge of Allegiance. So if we all plan to rise together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. Moving onward to the approval of tonight's agenda as the next item. I think everyone received a copy prior to the meeting. So assuming no amendments or further discussion, I'd like to ask for approval of the agenda for tonight's June 17th EMC meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Great. All in favor of approving tonight's agenda of the EMC meeting for June 17th, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Thank you very much. Next up, we have approval of our meeting minutes from our commission meeting last month on May 20th. As these were also sent prior to the meeting and assuming no amendments, I am looking for a motion to approve the minutes from the May 20th EMC meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor of approving the May 20th EMC meeting minutes, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Great. Well, moving to the public and open forum time of our agenda, inviting any community members present to join this space at the podium.
Hi, my name is LaVon Dorn, and I live in the community. I've been here for about 35 years. And I have two things that I'm interested in, and I'll just kind of go over them quickly because I know my time is short. I follow your minutes monthly as best I can, and I just have two things that I thought might be relevant to the committee or the community. The first one is, it's in regards to recycling. I don't know if the city or the committee or whoever has ever thought about requiring recycling containers at gas stations. And then also, that would be like the first major place to put them, and then also adding them at our grocery stores, Target and Fleet Farm. And I know that you just got grant money this year, and you're putting recycling containers into some of the parks, and I know that that's kind of an ongoing yearly thing that you had talked about or had posted. But I just feel like gas stations are such a logical place to be putting recycling containers. So many people are emptying trash as they're getting gas, and we're also encouraged to be recycling at home. And so it just seems like gas stations that are so heavily used, it would just be a logical place to put them. And then, like I said, you could add them at grocery stores and Target and Fleet Farm or whatever, other places in the community. And then my second idea or thought was, I know that you do like a monthly calendar that you kind of focus, you have a certain topic per month that you kind of focus on. And it seemed like, and when I'm reading the things, a lot of the topics that you focus on, the way you tackle it or deal with it is more through social media blasts or on the electric signage in, at the community entrances and by the police station. And the electric signs are tough because you're driving and you're just kind of seeing them quick, so you can't really focus on some of the messages that are there. And then the social media blasts, they're just, sometimes people, when they see these things coming from the city, they just say, oh, it's just another ad, and they skim over it. So one of the topics I saw that you have coming up is, I thought I read it, it was like July 3rd, don't use plastic bags or something. And so my thought is, instead of just saying that and saying, oh, okay, we covered that idea, how about, this is just an idea, like I said, at the end of the month in September, and it's once kids are in school and they're kind of settled in and they've got a few weeks behind them, have maybe one of you or somebody from the county or somebody that kind of deals with recycling, environment kinds of things, go out and talk to K1 and 2 grades and talk to them about the importance of not using plastic bags, let's say. And, talking about the litters things, they accumulate in the lakes, et cetera. And then after that little talk or speakership, the person could hand out a cloth bag to each kid, K1 and 2, and that they could take it home and give it to their family and say, hey, we have this speaker and we can use this bag now when I go to Hy-Vee or I go to the dollar store or wherever I'm going. And the bag, again, a cloth bag, you could have the City of Oakdale's logo on it. You could do whatever logo or whatever you want on it. But I picked K1 and 2 is because I'm also a retired teacher and I worked with the young kids, and they're very willing and interested to share information and take it home and tell their families about it. And I think that they would want to use the bags. And so you could kind of do this on a yearly basis, again, just tackling those young kids, and then hopefully kind of keep filtering it up. They would be, familiar with it each year. But then you could also hand the bags out at Summerfest or wherever. I mean, the state fair does it all the time, so I thought maybe, again, if there's grant money or money somewhere that could be done. And I know that your committee focuses on a lot of, I kind of look at it as more worldly things like, electric charging stations or solar panels and things like that, which are great. But, a lot of people can't afford solar panels right now, and a lot of people aren't going out and buying new cars. And so I was just thinking that these two things at least would be kind of practical, relevant. People kind of are used to seeing these things around, and it would just be something that might be more hands-on and practical for the community. So anyway, that's all I have. Any questions or anything? Okay, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Any other open comments? Great. Okay, we will now close the public forum. And we're moving on to the EMC review section, and specifically old business from last month, beginning with a project update by Hannah regarding our efforts in helping the City of Oakdale think through how our city can host an environmental fair.
Yes, thank you. I'll just briefly summarize the memo in the packet. The environmental fair is starting to take shape based on some further direction. The memo lays out that general outline of the event. First, it'll be branded as the Oakdale Eco Fair and will take place in conjunction with Arbor Day next April. In order to draw families and kids, there will be activities such as recreation programming, crafts, coloring, just trying to brainstorm some activities that would draw families. We'll also see if we can incorporate some reuse components like a library book swap or a bike fix-it clinic. We're planning to reach out to some different organizations and see if we can create some partnerships for the event. Staff's going to handle the planning with the assistance of the EMC, and I'm currently in the process of drafting a letter or email that will go to a long list of potential vendors. And then once we get their response and we see what interest looks like, we'll determine a venue. So Discovery Center is a viable option if there's a smaller number of vendors that would want to participate. But if we get really good response, then we might have to look at a bigger venue. And then the EMC's role will be to recommend potential vendors and then provide that day of support, like vendor check-in, setup, tear down, just to make sure that the day goes smoothly. So I can open it up to conversation, questions.
I guess in terms of a suggestion for other people to solicit other organizations, there's an Oakdale Garden Club, and I think there's a Washington County one too, that either one of those might be interested in putting something up.
Yeah, those are great ideas, especially with the timing of the
Yeah.
fair being in April. People start thinking more about gardening and prepping for spring.
And I also wonder, kind of inspired by Levon's comments, maybe ISD 622 or one of the schools.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think Oakdale Wellness 50 Plus could help with the bike repair clinic,
Oh,
because we've had some of that at the Discovery Center through our community-wide events every spring, so
that'd be
I
great.
think we could combine that.
Yeah, then I can reach out to Oakdale Wellness 50 Plus via email and get that conversation going. And then once I send that email out, I'll pass it along to you, and then you can feel free to, if you've got connections to organizations like Wellness 50 Plus, feel free to pass it along. Still working out the process of how they would apply, whether we can use our kind of existing online platforms like OpenGov to have them apply. So that's still being worked out. So kind of figuring out some of those logistics before we send out the email, but it should be hopefully drafted soon, and then I'll pass it along to you.
Great. Go ahead.
A couple of other things came to mind were, in addition to bike repair, bicycle safety. And I know Minnesota, or Bike Minnesota has a program on that they have people that can come out. And also, as far as vendors, I think vendors that are involved in energy conservation for homes.
Yeah, I'll add those to the growing list, and then I'll share that list with you, just so you know who's already received the letter or email, so that we're not sending organizations the same thing twice. But yeah, probably be a good list. Other cities do these: Fridley, Richfield, Stillwater. So there's a good, can look at their resources and get some ideas.
And it would be also another opportunity to do something with cloth recycling bags. And again, Levon brought that up, and I think that would be a good place to distribute those. And
Yeah, that was my other comment to piggyback on Resident Dorn's comment, and what's been said is that coordinating with other vendors in terms of giveaways. I have 27 bags in the back of my car, cloth bags, just 27. But it'd be nice to not have people come away with a lot of stuff.
Right.
So however we coordinate the vendor takeaways and whatnot, I think that'd be helpful. But I love the idea of having it family friendly, all ages, kiddos. It's great.
Yeah, we'll also look into the possibility of a food truck, another draw.
Great. Other comments or reflections for planning? Okay, thank you, Hannah. Moving to any new business in our agenda, I think Hannah's up again.
I am.
Talk about a park plan, I think, in a presentation. Yeah.
Yes, so tonight I'll be providing an update regarding the park system plan. This is the first time the EMC is being presented this project, so the presentation tonight will be very high level. There will be opportunities to provide feedback and thoughts, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions that commissioners have. So from the city side, I'm the project lead / manager. I work closely with other staff members, including Andy Gitzloff, the community development director, Julie Williams, the recreation superintendent, and Jeff Kuzling, the park superintendent. And then the city has hired SRF Consulting Group as a consultant to provide professional planning services. The 4 main SRF staff that the city works with are shown on the screen: Ken, Stuart, Shauna, and Norman. So there's a chance you run into them if we're out at an engagement event and they're there. So might have an opportunity to meet them. The purpose of this project is to do a park plan update so that the city has a comprehensive and guiding roadmap that identifies and prioritizes recommendations for park improvements, schedules, costs, staffing, and funding opportunities. Oakdale has a lot of parks in its system. There are currently 28 parks with over 473 acres of park space. And in the coming years, 4 new parks are planned to be added into the system. So there's 3 in the Willowbrook neighborhood development, and then 1 is planned near the Gold Line Hummel Station. So we already have a well-established park system, and it's growing. However, there are a variety of reasons why the city needs to, why the city's in need of a new plan. With all that growth, with all the development, the city will grow. There's the Willowbrook neighborhood, like I mentioned. There's new multifamily and commercial projects down by the Gold Line, and then there's general infill development throughout the city, as you all saw on the bus tour. And that's going to bring an estimated 20% population growth over the next 4 to 6 years as a result of this development. So growth is a big reason why we need a new park system plan. In addition to growth, there's changing demographics, there's interest in different park amenities, and much of our park infrastructure is aging. So from many different angles, there's a need for an updated plan. Throughout the entire planning process, community engagement is going to be very foundational. A later slide will detail some of the past and upcoming engagement, but it is a primary focus of the study. This is a brief overview of the project schedule. It kicked off at the beginning of the year and is anticipated to take about a year to complete. At the beginning of 2024, the consultant spent time looking through the city's previous planning efforts and studies and conducted a demographic trends analysis. Then in February, they shifted their attention to assessing our existing infrastructure and facilities. And because weather was so warm, we were able to get out into the parks in February to tour them and inspect the infrastructure. And then at the end of April and beginning of May, SRF and city staff did some charrette design sessions where we looked at each individual park to come up with ideas that could go into their concept plans, which will be shared with the public very soon. So a big focus of the study, aside from the operational staffing costs, is to come up with concepts for each of the parks to see how we can create a system that meets demand and the needs of the community. Tanner's Lake has its own master plan, so that more in-depth attention could be given to it, just to think of how to envision the space and use it in the best possible way. This summer is really dedicated, as you can see on the schedule, to big engagement pushes and gathering feedback. And then once fall hits, the planning team will focus on more of those operational pieces, such as staffing and funding opportunities, and putting everything together to create a final document that's a usable roadmap for the city. This slide shows a majority of the public engagement that has occurred or will occur throughout the project. During March and April, there was an initial survey that went out to the public that intended to gather pretty high-level general feedback about gaps people are seeing in the system, what amenities people like in the current system, what they wish to see in the future system. This was promoted in the Mayor's Monday Morning Minute. There was also an interactive map aside from the survey that allowed people to leave comments on specific parks, and this is still open. So if people are listening, there's that interactive map. If you're out in the park this summer and you think of some feedback that you want to give, that is an engagement tool that you can take advantage of. And then on March 23rd, Stuart from SRF and I were at the Oakdale Indoor Market to talk with attendees and gather in-person feedback. There we encouraged people to take that survey or give us in-person feedback. I believe about 60 people stopped by our table throughout the 4-hour indoor market. And the picture on the slide is from that event. And then looking ahead, to future engagement, we've got stakeholder meetings with community groups and organizations. There will also be a second online survey for those park concepts that that SRF has created, which I'll get into in a little bit. There will also be more in-person engagement throughout the summer, though dates and events haven't been solidified yet. But our goal with these engagement opportunities is to go where people are at. So we've kind of foregone the traditional open house, come to us style of engagement, and we want to interact with people at the parks where they're doing the activities that they use the parks for. And then lastly, the public will have an opportunity to review the draft report and provide comments, much like what happened with the bike and ped plan. And then I can pause briefly right now to answer any questions that you might have about the project scope, the schedule, and the engagement, the planned public engagement that I just went through.
Could you elaborate on the stakeholder meetings? Who are the stakeholders?
Yeah, so we've identified some to reach out to. So the Oakdale Athletic Association might be a stakeholder, Oakdale Wellness 50+, the school districts, but because school is out of session, school district might be something that's done in the fall. But those are a few of the identified organizations that we'll be reaching out to see if they're interested in meeting with us about the park system plan.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can you, so online engagement, I see that it has started and it will continue through
Yes.
summer months. Can you share about how people are informed of that, or what the call to action is? Because I know for me personally, I need to be told like 8 times before I do something. So
Yeah.
I'm curious about that.
So working with communications, we will make sure that there's pushes for these surveys on social media. I think in the last survey, communications put out a news flash email that so if people are subscribed to emails through our website, they were informed that there was a survey available, Monday Morning Minute. I don't believe we did any communications on the TV lobby out front. Word of mouth was a big one, so when Stuart and I were at the Parks and Rec Commission, that was after the survey closed, but we told them when the next survey push comes, we'll let them know so that they can get that word out to their neighbors, family, friends. So I've worked with communications on how to get that out there. If you have other ideas of how to communicate with people, we were at the Oakdale Indoor Market for that in-person, but I know some people still don't follow us on Facebook or don't get the emails. One thing I did forget to mention was with the second push, we'll actually have yard signs that are going to go up in all of the parks. And a park like Walton will have multiple yard signs, and it's a simple sign. It's in English, Hmong, and Spanish, and we'll direct people to that engagement website where they can take the survey. So that's another way to connect with people.
Commissioner, yeah.
I was just going to ask if we'll have a QR code on it?
The yard signs will have a QR code, yes, making it super easy, but also the link if someone doesn't have a phone. And then, at the summer Engagement events, SRF, we're still working on what events we'll go to depending on when the survey goes live. But when we were at the indoor market, we had little sheets of paper that we handed out to people with a QR code, so there'd be something similar for this next survey. If there are no other questions, I can keep moving along. As you can see on the screen, this is a word cloud, and as Stuart said during his presentation, the Parks and Rec Commission back in April, they're fun to look at, but not particularly helpful. But this was something that the survey tool kind of generated. And then looking at public engagement from that first survey, so throughout the 4 or so weeks the preliminary survey was open, we received 250 responses. And during the same time period, the interactive map received 80 unique comments and is still open. What were some of the top responses we heard? Install a water feature, improve playing fields, add more pickleball courts, update playgrounds, get new playground equipment. Many people said Tanner's Lake Park needs updating. And then another big one was add accessible and inclusive playground amenities. So aside from inclusive play features for kids of all abilities, this also includes trails to get into the parks and around the parks. I think there's a good number of our parks that have no trails throughout it. It's just grass. So not the easiest for some people to maneuver around. And then on the right, that's a screenshot of the interactive map. The different colored dots are associated with different types of comments that people can leave. So if you've used this feature, then you already know that the green dots are comments of what people like. Red dots are for comments that of things people think dislike, and then yellow comments are for what can be improved. So if you haven't used the map, it's still open, so I highly suggest giving some feedback. It's I'll admit, not the easiest to maneuver, but once you kind of get the hang of it, it's a really powerful tool. So in the packet, in the presentation, there were screenshots of some of the results we've gotten for some of the questions. I'm not going to go through each of them one by one and read off to you the different responses we've gotten since you got this ahead of the meeting, but I'd really rather like to open it up to conversation about the results if you've had a chance to review them. I've got a few questions to get the juices flowing. So I can open it right now if you've had a chance to look at any of the responses and if you have any feedback you'd like to provide. Otherwise, I can kind of throw some questions out to get the conversation going.
I did notice that parks do not provide amenities I want to use as a number one barrier mention. And then favorite city, or the improvement that people wanted to see, there's two that seem to be pretty front and center, which is the water feature and the extra playgrounds. So hopefully those match with the opposite of people that say they didn't like the amenities, but is there a way to find out when people answer the parks do not provide the amenities, what amenities that they wanted, or?
Yes, so in the survey, we had that question, then there was an opportunity to leave a more open-ended response. Those results aren't going to be shared publicly, but they were super helpful looking at when the consultants and the project planning team were starting to develop concepts. So we were able to get a little bit more insight than just this kind of, people didn't think that the amenities were there for them. We got a little bit more information than that we're using. Were there any things that surprised commissioners, or are there gaps or barriers that you feel should be immediately addressed in your experiences in the Oakdale Park system?
For me personally, there were nothing was shocking from the results. Although I was taken to Commissioner Doolittle's point about not providing the amenities, and the second highest one was yet many people have found that they aren't really aware of what the amenities are. So I'm wondering, actually, my question is there a way to share, but prior to these next round of stakeholder meetings, and is there a way to capitalize on what we know now and putting that content out there as another way for people to get interested in taking the survey? Because maybe it's like the social proof thing. Maybe they need to see and hear what other people have already said, yet they may not feel compelled to do so themselves. So I don't know if there's a way to combine these two
Yeah, that's
content areas.
something to think about. Maybe another question is, you know, you're the EMC, are there environmental initiatives or features that you think should be more carefully or intentionally incorporated into parks, just to make a bit more of a tie-in between parks and your work as the Environmental Management Commission? I don't know if you've thought about that or...
I have. One idea, Tim, to Commissioner Doolittle's point, is about water features. And I'm unclear how new parks lean into or align with ordinances and codes in terms of where water features, or even more general, where curb cuts or entrances, we do all those kinds of things in the park, but as those abut main streets or thoroughfares or easements, has the city, or is the ordinance welcoming and inclusive to operationalizing some of this feedback from our residents?
I don't know that code inside and out, but we've had, you know, this feedback, this survey feedback and responses was taken by the planning team and the consultant to develop concepts. And then those concepts were reviewed by our development review committee, which has fire, police, engineering, community development, building. So they've had a chance to review, and we went through the concepts. So, you know, they're the experts in their different areas. So they've, you know, if something was flagging as a concern or out of alignment with the code, they informed us, and then we took that into consideration and revised the concept plan. So yes, we're trying to get that alignment between all the different departments and code and comp plan and previous planning efforts, and trying to make it all tie together.
Great.
Well, there are some amenities like lights that can be solar powered. Is there an effort to identify a few not terribly expensive installations that could make people more aware of solar power?
That's a good idea. Lighting has come up in some of the concept plans, but not in relation to solar lighting. You know, it's something we can look at, either LED or solar powered, and make our lighting more efficient. I feel like lighting's mostly come up as a safety issue, but we can kind of tie the two together. It's a good idea.
I always think it's cool when I see a little solar panel underneath something, and sometimes it's powering things that I didn't expect it could power. So that might be
Yeah,
something to think about.
yeah, absolutely.
I don't know what the, you know, every park has a little bit different personality, if you will, and some are oriented towards, you know, playing fields and stuff like that, and others are more, maybe more forested or whatever. But is there any kind of, it seems like, and I'm definitely not an expert in all the Oakdale parks, but it seems like a lot of them have a lot of open sort of mowed grass that often isn't like all fields. And I don't know if there's a plan to maybe add a few trees into some of these things with picnic table underneath or something like that. And I don't know, again, that might be a way to add some environmentally useful message about, hey, we're, you know, Oakdale's adding 500 trees to our parks or whatever the thing is, that we could make known by by a sign or something like that, as we go through this park design thing.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple of parks that come to mind, like Preservation and Powerline, or just a lot of mowed turf grass. So there might be opportunities to look at grant funding for, restoring some of this to pollinator habitat or rain gardens, absolutely, or, add more trees.
Or even if it's not a rain garden, just have a few trees there for shade, keep it mowed, but a little shady spot to sit on a hot day or something.
Right, it'll draw people to
Yeah.
the park if they can have some shade and a picnic table. Absolutely.
A couple of things that came up from the survey here is beyond not providing the amenities, are people just not aware of what's available in the parks? And so maybe just some communications about what's available in each park, maybe feature a park each month or something.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Tell what's in it and what you can do there. And then also, as far as amenities, the top 5 favorite parks are all parks that have more amenities to them. So they're probably getting more use and because they have certain amenities. But I think maybe people knowing beyond those top 5 what these other parks have. I know I haven't been to a lot of these other ones to even know what exists there.
Right, right.
And maybe even how in a state park, they have what's available in each of those state parks, and that maybe to have like an abbreviated guide to the parks of Oakdale, and page on the website that shows the various amenities of each park, what's available, are there restrooms, are there running water, whatever it might be.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have a web page that lists all the parks, but I think you have to click on it to get the amenities list. So maybe more of maybe if it's an interactive GIS map that has some icons or something to kind of get a better picture of the whole system. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I would agree that wayfinding is great. And if there's a way to, at least with the newest parks, to test out like what sounds like we're going to be doing with the survey signage with the QR code, if there's a way to kind of overlay that at a local park level. Because I know, for example, Bethkey Park, which is right down the dirt road from our house, there's no paving, there's nothing, but it is all native and bee and grasses, and it's beautiful, but nobody knows about that. So, yeah. that'd be
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah, and I think to Tim's point about parks that have these open areas that are not, ball fields or soccer fields, that, that they provide more of a green space for people. And to, develop that green space maybe a little more with additional vegetation.
Maybe another just quick question about Tanner's Lake Park, since that has its own master plan. If maybe you have any thoughts specifically about that park? It's got the shoreline, so there's some natural environmental features.
Well, it has a wonderful little fishing dock that maybe there could be an interpreter there once a month or something to talk more about the fish in the lake and how to make the lake more fish-friendly and that kind of thing. Because it is a really nice place to go fishing.
Yeah, as I remember for Tanner's Lake, we were going to look at the water quality data, and I think that would be helpful in determining what environmental things we can do around the park, if it's a runoff issue or whatever. I know there were, years back, we installed a couple of water gardens because there was a lot of runoff from the ball field and that. So, yeah, I think taking a look at that would be good to do. And see what other amenities might be possible there, or if there's need for more rain gardens or whatever. With the rains like we've had, there might be.
Yeah, I was gonna, before all this heavy rain, we visited in May, and it seemed like maybe even more rain gardens with more capacity would be beneficial there, because there was some flooding at the back. And that wasn't even before this recent trend of rain every day.
Yeah, and I think the development along the shoreline and that is that a possible impact on the water quality too, with more runoff from impervious surfaces?
Yeah, I really like the idea of somehow telling the story about the lake. It's a very unique, there's not many lakes plopped in a place like Tanner's Lake, and especially with the new bus line, it will probably get more sort of out of town attention, and it'd be interesting to sort of paint a picture about how it's doing. Maybe there's a story about the impact that we're dealing with now, and and now all the other growth that's happening, what the plans are to address it, and just kind of track progress. Sometimes people don't really think about the uniqueness of a setting like that until they read a little story about it and realize that there is a story. There's people monitoring what's going on. It's going better, worse, whatever, and here's the plan to try to keep it on the right track. I kind of like that idea of a storytelling panel or something like that, right by the fishing dock.
Well, to your point too, Tim, it's a very interesting story, because that is where they used to cut ice back in the day before there were
right.
roads and, streetcars, so.
Yeah, the first
gotta-
first business, was it? The
I believe so.
first industry of town? Yeah.
That's right.
Did you learn on the development bus tour?
No, I actually knew that one.
Great, this is all super helpful, great feedback. It's nice to have other perspectives. That's why we're going to the various commissions, just to get their unique perspectives. Are there any final thoughts? And as you all know, you're free to email me anytime with any ideas. So I'm almost at the end of the presentation, but I just first wanted to inform inform the commission about upcoming engagement. So using the responses and feedback received from the first survey and accompanying engagement, the planning team created preliminary concept plans for 27 parks. Because Tanner's Lake Park has its own master plan with its own engagement and concept plan development timeline, that's not part of this package that will be sent out to the public very soon. But there will be Tanner's Lake Park engagement. Actually, multiple preliminary concepts will be developed just to explore trade-offs, since it's got its own master plan. So it's just thinking through a little bit more, since it's such an important park in the system. And now that those preliminary concepts for 27 parks are complete, we're going to go out to the public soon to gather feedback, see what people like or dislike about concepts, see what elements people feel should be incorporated, see what priorities they have, since all improvements can't be completed, implemented at one time. We've got finite resources. So this survey is hoping to kind of tease some of that out. It should be released soon. And then the consultant and I will be tabling at various events, community recreation events to gather in-person feedback, another education piece so that people who maybe don't have social media or receive emails are aware that this is something that's going on. So I will send an email to the EMC once that's live so that you can go in and provide feedback, and please encourage your neighbors and family, friends that use parks in Oakdale to also take the survey. We want to get really good feedback. So stay tuned. If commissioners, like I said just before, have any follow-up questions after the meeting in the weeks, months to come, since we're only about halfway through this plan, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. And if there are any questions that you just thought of right now, I'm happy to answer them.
Great. Thank you very much, Hannah.
Of course.
Well, next up on our new business agenda, looks like we have a nomination and election of a new commissioner vice chair. I think you have the forms in front of you, yet is this one that we can allow for a verbal vote?
It depends on the nomination, sir.
Okay. Great. So the vacancy is for vice chair of the EMC. Is there I have to open nominations, don't I? Or open,
Someone could just make a motion to nominate a
to nominate a
candidate.
vice chair?
And it
I would
does-
invite somebody to make a motion right now to nominate a vice chair.
I nominate Keith as a vice chair.
I would like to nominate Tim Doolittle as vice chair.
I would second the nomination of Doolittle. Is there any other?
No, there just needs to be a motion to close the nominations now, and that needs a second.
So moved.
That works? Thank you.
And then a second.
I'll second. So now there's a motion
A second, so then people can use the ballots
to ballot.
to write down, and then I can collect them.
You want to click? Okay. You want to use the ballots and write down your nomination?
Well, chairperson is on the ballot.
Just ignore that one.
Ignore that. Okay.
Yep. It's just vice.
Okay. I'll read off the results now. So 1 vote for Keith Miller, 1 for Tim Doolittle, another for Tim Doolittle, and a 3rd for Tim Doolittle. So then there just needs to be a motion and a second to make the election official.
Yep. I will make a motion to elect Vice Chair Doolittle for the position for a period of 1 calendar year, commencing with June 17th, 2024's meeting.
I'll second that motion.
Great. Discussion? All in favor to elect Commissioner Doolittle for the position of Vice Chair? Say aye.
Aye.
Great. Congrats.
Thank you.
Right. Next up, we'll move to Staff Commissioner and Council Liaison updates, beginning with our monthly review of the 2024 editorial calendar, always in coordination with our wonderful communications department at Oakdale. Thank you for always preparing this. Would you want to walk us through this, Hannah, and
Yes,
share
absolutely.
share what's ahead?
Yes, so I'll first start with the review of the editorial calendar, and once discussion about that's wrapped up, then I'll give a few community development updates. Looking ahead, the theme for July is going plastic free. We can push the reusable bags that we used grant dollars for last year, or we can educate, again, people about the places in Oakdale where they can recycle plastic bags and film. The theme for August was designed to be flexible, so it just says miscellaneous, whatever's timely or relevant. I haven't identified a potential theme that makes sense quite yet. So if commissioners have any ideas, I would love to hear them. Otherwise, I can continue to brainstorm and come up with some potential topics to promote. And then the theme for September is electric vehicles. There's lots of resources to share. Some are already listed in our 2024 editorial calendar. We could promote resources for IRA rebates for electric vehicles. Drive Electric Minnesota has a really good guide for finding the right electric vehicle. So there's quite a few resources. So if anyone has stumbled upon something new that's not on the editorial calendar, please feel free to share, or if you feel strongly that one resource is something that we should promote, I invite conversation or sharing of your ideas now.
I can't even think about August. Okay, July. What month is it? Yeah, so I don't know if there's any way to dovetail. We talked a lot about the park piece. If there's social media real estate's valuable content space-wise, so I don't know if there's a way to dovetail a little bit about the vision of a future state and public input for August as related to, again, an EMC topic. Not that it has to be a national month to have it, but aligned with our work plan, I'm thinking, so. I'm just talking this out.
I think last August we focused on water conservation because we were in drought. You never know, come August.
It's true.
Yeah, I think water conservation is still relevant, even though it won't impact lawn watering, but conserving water, showering, and doing dishes, laundry, whatever, in your home, because that water is processed water and drinking water. And so I think conservation tips could be more focused on those things in your home, conserving water, rather than, I think past focus has been more on watering your lawns and that type of thing. And also, you know, low flow faucets and all that can be part of that communications as well. And I do like, in general, you know, schools are letting out now, but I think I have brought this up previously, that we had a communications person in the city of Oakdale who did go out to the schools and visit classrooms and talked about primarily waste and that, but you could also talk about water conservation, different topics. But I think that would be something really good to add to our communications in the future, if we could get someone in the communications here, some staff person to go out regularly to the different schools and do a program.
In the past, I know we've talked a lot about, so with runoff, but it's rain barrels. Rain barrels that's still, I would assume, a county?
Yes,
Program,
they
yeah.
went, the sale opened up, I want to say April 1st, and they normally sell out quite quickly, but that's something I can look at to see if there's some that are still available, or just promoting rain barrels in general. But if, you know, cost is a barrier, that the county, I don't know if they were selling them at a lower rate, a discounted rate, or if that was a full price. But I can look more into that might be a good one, rain barrels. Okay, if there aren't any other ideas, I can just move on to community development. As always, feel free to send me an email anytime. So first, I received an email from Monica Stiglich with information regarding priority 2 funding for the 3MP FAST settlement. The timeline is again being pushed back a bit, so looks like late 2024 is when they're looking to do letter of intent screenings, and then in the spring of 2025, the full RFP will be released, and then applications are going to be due in summer 2025. So more time to think about it. You know, we talked about Tanner's Lake Park as part of the park system plan, and Tanner's Lake was previously mentioned as a potential project site. You know, don't know exactly what that project would look like, but there's more time just to continue thinking about it. Second, a follow-up from the May meeting. I'm still looking into the Green Step City sign. I might have to do some digging over at Public Works, because the people I talked to don't recall whether the city was in possession of a sign. But it's a fairly low cost, so I'll keep exploring the issue if we don't have one. And then another follow-up from the May meeting regarding Tree City USA. That designation, that's through the Arbor Day Foundation. So to be designated as a Tree City USA, there are 4 standards that you have to meet. 1, the city must have a tree board or department. 2, there has to be a public tree care ordinance. 3, there has to be a community forestry program with an annual budget of at least $2 per capita. And 4th, there has to be an Arbor Day observance and proclamation. So like I said, the last meeting, it's an annual application, and Oakdale continues to receive that award year after year. So those, looked into it, those are the 4 standards that cities have to meet to be designated as one. And then last update I have is there are 2 AMC applicants who will be interviewing with council at an upcoming workshop. So very exciting news that we've got some interest. And those are all the updates I have.
Thank you. Moving next to, I think, commissioner updates.
Well, this is my last meeting. I've proudly served on the commission for 6 years, and I've learned a lot, really enjoyed it, and I encourage any citizen to apply, because it's really a good commission.
And also, it is my last meeting with the Environmental Management Commission. I've been on the commission for 20 years now, about 17 years as the chair. And so I decided not to renew my term and be sad to leave, but you know, I have many things I'm doing in retirement, and they'll give me more time to pursue other things. So appreciate the time on the commission and also the improvements that have been made over the year in the city. So happy to leave and to leave it in good hands.
Thanks to both of you.
Well, thank you, Bonnie, first. And I know that given our, you dropped the bus tour earlier in our meeting tonight, Hannah. So given our bus tour and the growth and learning where Oakdale is heading, I know that Wellness 50 is perfectly positioned to be that voice to those communities. So
great.
thank you for prioritizing that as well as you have with the EMC. And, you know, Keith, when you work alongside volunteers or advisory bodies and commissioners, it isn't often that one says 20 years. So I just want to acknowledge that that is a huge gift. And I know that the city council will formally recognize and thank him for his efforts, but just a personal sentiment of gratitude for all that you've done and for leaving this city much better than you found it.
Thank you.
Any other updates from commissioners? I think the only other thing I have is just a touch point on the Adopted Rain program. I brought it up last month, and as a reminder, we have voluntarily adopted the three drains right outside these offices in Walton Park. And again, while I know Hannah has sent a draft schedule for the months that we would self-select to voluntarily clean. Again, the effort needs no formal action at this point or vote, but I know that the draft schedule will be forthcoming amongst all of us, so just stay tuned for that. So, hearing no other updates, moving into the last part of our agenda, we'd like to invite our Councilmember Morcom up, potentially as our sitting liaison to the EMC for some Oakdale updates.
Yes, thank you very much for having me. Thank you, commissioners. I'm filling in for Mayor Zabel, who had to attend to a family matter. But first of all, thank you both to Commissioners Wilson and Miller for all of your time and your commitment. We rely on the City Council and the feedback from these commissions. And even just hearing all the feedback on the Parks Plan, which I'm very excited about in the City of Oakdale, is exciting because there's certain things that were shared that I had ideas on as well. And then there was new ideas that came out of it, which is what makes this a better process. So thank you for all the feedback. A few things. One, a birdie chirped in my ear while we were speaking that the rain barrels in Washington County are all sold out for 2024. So they're in high demand. We would love one ourselves, but we haven't got there yet. So you're aware. Also, right now the Acorn Awards for the city are open, and we're looking for more feedback, more nominations. So as residents are going on walks in the neighborhood and the community, we're looking for nominations for residential, commercial, and other categories as well. So go to the city website, and that's open for a few more weeks still, and then we get to tour them all, which is fun. Also, of course, we have Summerfest coming up, a lot of excitement, a lot of use in our parks and Walton, so get out there and encourage interacting with the community and sharing what you're doing here on these commissions. One, so we can continue to find new commission members and get their new voices, their new ideas, and also just to be a part of the community. And finally, I'll say I am excited about the Parks Plan and what we're doing. but building out parks is an expensive proposition. And the city does work with contract grant writers, and there's a number of different opportunities out there in the community, whether it be for solar or passive park space, native pollinators, whatever it may be, safe walking, safe trails. If there's any ideas or opportunities that you as a commission come up with, or the public in general, for grants that could support Oakdale in building out our park system, please let us know, because it's great to hear about those opportunities. And sometimes they're one time only. They come and they go. So we can't be everywhere at once. Happy to take feedback from anybody. But otherwise, yeah, there's a lot going on. I'll stand for any questions if you have any. Sounds good. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Yeah. This brings us to the end of the agenda for this evening. Our next meeting of the EMC will occur on Monday, August 19th, 2024 at 7 p.m. in these council chambers at Oakdale City Hall. If there is no further discussion, I will call for a motion to adjourn tonight's June 17th meeting of the EMC.
So moved.
Need a
Second.
All in favor of adjourning tonight's EMC meeting for June 17th, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.